Our guest today is someone who represents much more than just a player and a draft pick for the Boston Celtics. He's the number 3 overall player taken in June behind only 2 guys whose names I will not even say because they don't matter today. He's a McDonald's All-American and Gatorade National Player of the Year in 2016, a 2-time gold medalist in the FIBA U19 and U17 World Championships, and of course, He's rocketed to stardom as now a Duke Blue Devils legend. Please put your hands together for Mr. Jayson Tatum. That's awesome. I have to ask you to sit, because if we stand next to each other, it's embarrassing for me. Welcome to Springfield, Jayson.
Thanks for having me.
So, your journey as a hoop nerd, when you're built like me, all I can do is just be a hoop nerd. Your journey is fascinating to me because it starts in one of the cities that has an amazing hoop tradition and yet doesn't get talked about nearly enough. I'm talking about St. Louis, Missouri. And I find that when you talk, when you talk about, I know, who's from St. Louis over here? I find that when you talk about some cities, right, Philadelphia ball, New York ball, Chicago ball, LA ball, there are certain characteristics that just define those guys. Talk to me and these guys about the way that St. Louis ball defined the game that we've come to love.
Yeah, that's a great question because growing up in St. Louis, you know, as I would travel and, you know, in camps and people would ask where I'm from, and I'd be like, St. Louis, and they'd be like, they play basketball in St. Louis? But, you know, when I was younger, I looked up to guys like Bradley Beal, he's from St. Louis, David Leaf's from St. Louis, Larry Hughes, Darius Miles, JoJo White back in the day. There's so many guys that, you know, they're from St. Louis that, you know, people didn't know. And, you know, we have a great background and tradition in St. Louis and a lot of great guys that, you know, I looked up to help me get where I am today.
And so much of that sort of informs who you are through the prep circuit and the AAU circuit. Now, you end up at Chaminade for high school. And again, it's so funny when we talk about this, it feels like years ago, but it's really just barely years ago. You end up in Chaminade. Obviously, you have incredibly high aspirations. You wanted to play in the association. But it was that year, those years at Chaminade, where your game rocketed to stardom. Can I ask you when it was that you realized that Jayson Tatum's game wasn't just next level, but Jayson Tatum was special? Your attention was special. When was that moment?
I want to say after my freshman year.
Okay.
My freshman year in high school, I played varsity. I started. And I was pretty good. You know, I averaged like 12 or 13 points. But really after that summer, at the start of my sophomore year, I averaged 26.5 points and like 11 rebounds.
Uh-huh.
So from going from 12 to 26.5 points a game, you know, that's when you know, the attention started to buzz, and you know, especially nationally, that I started getting recognition.
And so much of the stories, guys who project and whose careers are like yours, talk about the Eureka Moment in the gym. Like when someone told you that if Jayson Tatum can add this to the skill set, things can take off. Then there's guys like Anthony Davis who just happened to grow 12 inches in a summer. I'm still waiting. Which was it for you? Was it someone who said there's this thing that you need to add? Was it you saying it? And what was that thing?
I think it was more of, you know, never get complacent.
Sure.
You know, because there were a lot of guys that I grew up with. I remember being in, you know, middle school, and, you know, guys had their own website, and, you know, guys were getting offered in 5th and 6th grade and saying that they were the next LeBron, and, you know, 2 years later, you know, we never hear of them again.
Yeah.
So that was the big for me. You know, my parents just always told me to stay focused and, you know, don't worry about, you know, the rankings in middle school and AAU. Because those things don't matter as you get older. So you know, that was big for me.
And now your recruitment and your recruiting class are fun to talk about because it was you, Harry Giles, Josh Jackson, you guys were the top 3 prizes. And I remember very distinctly the way that those decisions started to break. And of course, you end up in, not so surprisingly, we see a lot of Tatum Duke jerseys here. You end up playing for Coach K. And that's an experience that many of us, many of the people here, maybe some of the kids here will experience that, but you had a lot of people who you knew from TV sitting in your living room trying to convince you to come and play for them. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience, how humbling that is, how exciting that is, what that means for your whole town? Talk a little bit about that.
The recruiting process was fun for me.
Was it?
Just growing up and, being 8, 9, 10 years old and, watching Coach K, Calipari, Roy Williams on TV and just, never knowing that I would get that opportunity to meet them, better yet, play for that program.
Yeah.
I never thought I would be good enough to play for Duke. And then when they started recruiting me, it was like a dream come true. And I remember in 2015, after they won a national championship, the next day, Coach K was in my living room recruiting me. And I kind of knew that he really wanted me to go there if he came the next day after they won a championship.
That's remarkable. That is absolutely remarkable. And so you choose Duke. You make Duke that decision, which obviously helps to reshape the entire recruiting class, all of the NCAA. And because of that, you now end up in the situation you're in. But getting back to the recruiting process, does it ever get overwhelming? Do you ever look at the phone and think, Coach Williams again, and just turn, like, did you ever get to that point where you're like, another call? It's 11 o'clock at night.
No, I didn't. Some guys, you hear stories about that all the time, but I think they want you. So if you control the process and, tell them when's a respectable time to call you or when you're with your family, they understand. But, there are certain stories you hear that, it gets kind of out of hand.
Now, after 1 year, obviously, you make yourself draft eligible. I forget where you went on draft night. Oh, yeah, that's right, the Celtics, 3rd overall. Can you talk to me? And we had Coach Stevens sitting in that seat yesterday, and Shemi was sitting there the day before. Can you tell us the story of your draft night? Coach Stevens was pretty honest yesterday saying that when you're picking number 3, you kind of sort of know what's going to happen. There's really not much chaos. So when did you know that it was the Boston Celtics?
The thing that, the people on TV watching back home don't know, when you're in the green room, there's cameras everywhere. And, right before Adam Silver comes on stage, all the cameras come to the table that they're about to pick. So I knew 10 seconds before they called my name. Right before they started talking, all the cameras rushed to me. I was like, oh my God. Too
bad you couldn't have gotten that tweet out in 10 seconds. You could have made the video of them come, and Boomerang maybe, just coming and leaving, and leaving. Summer League for you was a tremendous success. I had Donovan Mitchell sitting here last week. Donovan Mitchell, 13th overall, we playing for the Jazz. And he talked about how fun it was to basically grow up playing against you and to have so many of the guys who you guys grew up playing against and with now suddenly in the association. Can you talk about Summer League and the way that was sort of your initiation into getting a paycheck to play basketball?
Like Donovan said, all the guys, that got drafted this year, especially, the guys that were freshmen or sophomores. We've known each other since, we were probably 13 or 14. So just to see all of us achieve our dreams, finally be drafted and, play in the NBA was a pretty cool experience. And then Summer League comes and, we're all on different teams and, but we're all in the NBA, and getting our first taste of, the NBA it was fun. It was really fun.
I love hearing you say fun, and it gets me to my next question, which is something that Coach Stevens said yesterday about how this particular group of rookies for you guys is sort of unlike many in that, Shemi's 22 years old. He's seen some stuff. And he mentioned a moment when a reporter asked you, how do you think how do you think you guys are going to fare, yada, 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 reporter stuff, right? And your response was, I don't know, I've never played in the NBA before. And about how that's a meaningful response coming from a number 3 pick. Is it sometimes hard for you to stay that sort of humble and driven, or is that just who Jayson Tatum is?
I think it's just who I am, just being honest. If you think about it, 3-4 months ago, I just turned 19.
I know.
So,
I've thought about it, don't worry.
So like a year and a half ago, I was still in high school. So just going from high school to college and now being in the NBA, it's all going by so fast.
You're due for a boring month, you know. You could schedule in just 4 weeks of nothing at some point. Maybe when you turn 40. So what's next for you? What are you working on heading into the preseason? Coach Stevens was mentioning, by the time you guys get your full team together, you really only have 2.5 weeks to build some sort of rapport. Right now, it's all voluntary stuff. It's 1-on-2, 2-on-2, 3-on-3 stuff, voluntary stuff. So you're probably not going to see the full locker room full for a few weeks still. What are you working on personally?
Really just getting acclimated, to the new system. I think that's what the rookies are doing, including myself. Being in the weight room, being around the coaches, learning the offense and the defense. So when guys like Al Horford, Gordon Hayward come that already know these things, that we'll be up to date to be able to, compete in practice.
Now, I know that obviously there's a number of circumstances that everyone around here are thinking about right now, right? So I'm just going to ask you this. Do you, at this point in the offseason, do you read reports? Do you follow Twitter? Is that even something that a rookie just looking to make an impact who has high hopes? Are you reading reports? Are you listening to sports talk radio, any stuff like that?
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah?
I am, because I'm still in the mind frame of look from the outside looking in.
Oh, really?
Sometimes it doesn't hit me yet that I'm in the NBA.
Yeah.
So I do.
You're still a fan.
Yeah.
Which I think is sort of awesome, right? And I think that we had, again, Glenn Robinson was talking about those moments too, where you realize I still just love this game, right? So give me a sense of your expectations for yourself this year. And I know you've told the press before you don't really know, but if we could project into the future, say 41 games, All-Star break, how does Jayson Tatum know if Jayson Tatum is living up to Jayson Tatum's expectations?
That's a tough question. I mean, especially on the team that I'm on. Number 1 seed in the East last year, and a lot of great veterans. So I think I don't know if stats, will tell the whole story. I think only, myself and my teammates, just the impact that I have that might not show up on the stats. Those are things that I really care about.
After this question, I'm going to ask which of you might have a question for Jayson Tatum. So start thinking, and then I'm going to ask you to raise your hand. One of the great Hoop Hall staffers will come and recognize a lucky 2, 3, 4 of you. So get ready. Now, your coach, Brad Stevens, is someone who has really taken the NBA by storm. His style, his swagger, his sort of humbleness, and yet his ability to motivate dudes. What's the biggest difference between Coach Stevens and Coach K, who also has that same reputation?
Well, one's much older.
Because 40 is really young, right, Jayson? Thank you.
I'm fortunate, to play for, Coach K.
Yeah.
And to transition and play for, Coach Stevens. Coach K told me that, after I got drafted, that, he was most excited, for me to be able to play for Coach Stevens. That's, one of his favorite, coaches in the NBA. And he just felt like, he's a great guy and great person, and which he is, and that I've experienced, my short time being there.
Do you have a question for Jayson Tatum? Raise your hand right now. One of the great Hoop Hall staffers will come and choose a lucky select few of you. I wonder how long it's going to take, Jayson, for the locker to feel like yours, for the floor to feel like yours, for you to not feel like sort of a fan who just happens maybe, won a contest, get to play for the Celtics, right? Have you thought about that at all? When is it going to feel like your real life?
I probably when the season starts.
Yeah.
I still have yet to been to the Garden. I've never been to the Garden. I've only been to the practice facility. So I guess when preseason or we finally play a game that it'll sink in.
In my final question is one that I have. I reserve the right to add one because this is fun. This moment, right? So here we are sitting underneath all of the watchful eyes of all the Hall of Famers who have come before. We're sitting in front of a bunch of Hall of Famers who've come before. MJ's been staring at me all summer. On the precipice of what we all hope is a long, historic NBA career. On the doorstep of 13 really crazy months for you. What is this moment like right now, sitting in the Basketball Hall of Fame, talking to all these people who came out to see you today?
As I think about it, when I was in high school, my junior and senior year, we played in the Hoop Hall, Classic tournament, and we had a tour around here, and I've been here twice, and I never would have thought, 13 months later, I'd be sitting here and people want to hear me talk. It's kind of crazy to think about, how fast time goes.
Give me a sense of, again, as a basketball guy, as a guy who's grown up in the game, there are really, and you and I are biased, it's your employer, my favorite team. Give me a sense of what that's like. You talk about all the Hall of Famers here, right? When you walk into the Celtics training facility in Waltham and you see all of the retired numbers, all of the championships, does that ring extra special for a guy on the beginning of his career?
Yeah, it definitely does. It makes you realize how fortunate you are, to see, 17 championship banners hanging up and dozens and dozens of retired jerseys. And, just to be in an opportunity that I am, I definitely don't take it for granted to, be a part of the best, franchise in the NBA.
Thank you very much, Jayson. Let's get to some hard questions, right? Hey, bro. Look at the hustle. Look at this hustle. All right, for everyone asking a question, and you're included here, I'm excited to hear the question. I only have 2 requests, okay? 1, that you let me hold the microphone, and 2, that you introduce yourself to Jayson before asking. Sound good?
Sounds good. Hi, Jayson.
How you doing?
I'm good. I'm super excited to be here.
Thank you.
My question is, what are your thoughts on the trade regarding Isaiah Thomas and Kyrie Irving?
Fastballs. Nothing but fastballs.
It's an honest question.
Great question. And I'm just happy to be here.
You sure you don't play for the Patriots? See, all the other questions go and sit down. They're like, well, he stole my question. Hey, buddy.
Hi, Jayson. I'm Tommy Henry.
Nice to meet you.
I love basketball. I'm so excited to be here.
Me too.
And my question is, when you're not playing basketball, what do you do for fun?
I like this question. Well, I just moved to Boston 5 or 6 days ago. And after we practice, you find out you have a lot of downtime. And, I just got a TV today. I just got a couch. So the past 6 days, I've just been driving around. I drove downtown Boston, and I just walked around. I was bored.
Thank you, Tommy. It's a good day to get a TV. You gonna watch the fight tonight?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Game of Thrones? Don't mess with Game of Thrones? All right. Well, I'm glad I scrapped all those questions.
Hi, Jayson.
How you doing?
My name is Cordero Crenshaw Jr.
Like your shirt?
My question is, you do good in basketball.
Thank you.
That's excellent. Thanks so much, bud. Thank you. That's about as genuine as it gets, Jayson. Now we send in the closer. You thought the other ones were hard? Here we come.
Hi. Hi, how are you?
How you doing?
Good. My question is, what do you think your NBA 2K19 rating is going to be?
Hopefully like 81, 82.
That's good.
That's a great question. I've been doing this for years. That's the first time I've heard that. That's great. What was your name?
Lila?
Lila, I hope you consider a career in journalism. That is the greatest question. Thanks, Lila. I told you they were fun. Ladies and gentlemen, please, one final round of applause for Mr. Jayson Tatum.